Okay, we've got the cleaning guy here. What do you got?
Well, we've got a 327 here that the younger brother of a good friend of mine from when we were virtually kids starting out together, Mikey is the fellow's name that I worked with in the machine shop as we was kids, kind of learning the business. He went on to become a truck mechanic, and of course I stayed with it. Anyway, his younger brother called me up and said, hey, I've got a 327 here in my truck that I wonder if you can go through for us. Story goes is this engine has been done sometime before. As I look it over here, I looked at the casting number. It's 3858174, which is a 327 small journal engine. Casting date on here, K45. So it was cast late in 1965. I would have guessed this would have come out in a 1966 model, but he told me that it's either a 67 or he's got it in a 67 truck right now. Story goes he was somewhere, went to a burnout competition, and he got a little bit carried away, a little higher RPM than he thought, and hurt the engine. He thinks it has a broken piston, maybe a broken piston skirt in it. We don't know for sure. Looking on the back here is some of the things I'm observing. The original breather system here has been plugged off, and they've evidently put breathers in these aftermarket valve covers with a more modern PVC system. They've probably got it installed in something that they used the long water pump on, because they drilled this hole here to be able to mount the alternator up here, which is not a real good idea, because the heads that are designed for this casting comes all the way up here, fills in just a little bit more, and actually has it's cast in there, so you can have a bolt hole. This one, with the way that's done, when you drill that hole, it goes through to the inside of the motor. As you can see, we've got an oil leak here because of that. I don't like it when they do that, but sometimes you got to do what you can do. It's been changed over to a Edelbrock air gap performer intake manifold. This probably originally was a 275 horse 327 with a quadrajet carburetor and 4-barrel manifold on it. But one thing that really concerns me is I noticed on the back end of it here, somebody prior has had some issues getting the galley plugs out of this, and something has been broken here and brazed back up, and it is quite wet up here in the back end. I'm a little bit concerned, wondering if we have a leak in that repair. So we're going to look at that real close as we get into it here. But other than that, let's start taking it apart and see what we find.
But it's not a catastrophic failure, but he does think it has a...
No, my understanding is the engine was still running. He said he drove it home after this burnout competition, and I think he said they dropped the pan on it and found parts of a piston, or what he thought was a piston. So we'll find out here real shortly. That one's loose.
The plan is build it right?
Yeah, he wants this put back right again, make it as good as we can. I hope we don't get in here and find out it's already been bored to the max or something. Throw that thermostat away. Never put an old thermostat back in a motor. You never know what kind of shape they're in. You have to get a wobble socket. That oil, shiny.
Huh.
You know, when you're tearing down the engine, that's where you don't want things to be too shiny. Short word for that.
You just can't wait to clean all this, can you?
I can't. It's my favorite thing.
Get the heads off?
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird that some of the bolts came out real easy. Some of them quite a bit harder, and then we get down to the center bolt on each head, having to get the 1/2-inch gun. What's the casting date on your head?
K25.
This one is K35, and the block is K45. This is probably all original parts that went together because they are all cast very similar time. There. We've pulled the heads off, we set them aside. We'll tear them down here a little bit later and look at them. But anyway, I pulled both head gaskets off to kind of look at them. And you can see here the areas in between. Everything is nice, clean. There's no dark area between where it's been blowing any compression across. So it appears the head gaskets were sealed very well in spite of what it felt like when we took those bolts out. So I don't think there was any issue with head gaskets leaking or anything on it. I'm looking at the pistons here. See if you can get a shot of the top of those. See how that's all washed clean on the outside edges there? This one back here is really washed clean. I would say that's been using quite a little oil. That's an indication of the oil coming up past the rings and washing the carbon off on top of the pistons. Just to feel the ridge at the top of the cylinder here, it does not appear to have any wear unless somebody has cut the ridge out of it and just rerung the block at some point in time. But when you get back to this cylinder here, I'm looking how aggressive the hone marks are in this cylinder. I'm not impressed with what I'm seeing there on the hone job. And in fact, I can still feel it. That's quite rough. I'm sure that's why we're seeing the oil consumption on that. Now that one is really rough. Even after this has been run,
And it's
I can almost catch my finger in the crosshatch.
well, it's not much of a crosshead.
No,
really.
it's just kind of a circular motion there, but it's, for some reason, it's quite rough. Maybe let's go ahead and pull the lifters up out of here, get them out of the way. Whether the cam is good or bad, we're going to replace it. We won't be putting the old one back in, so I'm not going to keep track of where any of these lifters came from. It's certainly not wiped out. Yeah, there's something going on the bottom side of some of those lifters. But they were all, everything looks like it's rotating. Huh.
You just want to wait till we
Yeah,
pull the cam?
I'm going to wait. I don't want to force that past and mess the block up.
Is it just two or?
Just two of them there. So we just hauled scrap this morning. How about we start making some more?
Sounds
We'll
good.
start with this right here. Good place for those. I hope we didn't throw away any customers' work. It's one way to get out of work.
They don't have any proof they brought it to us. 60.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's 60.
Already 60 over. Well, between that and this that defect we found on the back of that block, we may be having to scrap this and start over something else.
Can I throw the gaskets away?
Yes.
My words didn't come out there. Can I throw the gaskets away?
Is that kind of like your 30 tooths?
Yep. 25, 30 tooths. It's always good to keep the internet guessing on whether you're trolling them or whether you're that dumb.
So, do we know if this has any oil left in it, or?
I don't think we know.
I'm going to say he drained the oil. Yep, he drained the oil.
Good.
But I'm still going to, let's drop the pan without turning the engine over. That way if there's any residual oil in it, it doesn't end up in the top as we roll it.
Okay. I got this lifter out. Kind of looks just
A little varnish on the bottom of it, so it was holding it. If we don't take these washers off, they end up getting lost out in the steel abrader. I think he had the pan off just before he brought the motor to us, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, just a little bit of residual oil in the pan.
No chunks or anything though, right now.
No chunks, but
They probably
I'm sure they took the chunks out when they dropped this pan.
Okay.
I always like to take that nylon washer off the drain plug before we put things into bake, because that nylon just melts and gets all over the place, kind of makes a mess. Timing chain has been replaced, but it's just a stock replacement. I would have thought they'd have put maybe a double roller in it, but they didn't.
We usually do double roller on everything.
Pretty much, yeah. Since we're replacing cam bearings and the cam, I'm not worried about dinging up bearings, so I'm just going to kind of drag that out.
Comp cams. 12242-2.
Did it do it?
Yeah.
Which way you want to go, my way or your way?
Towards you.
Okay, go easy.
Yeah,
There, we're
there's,
getting some.
there's
Yeah,
coolant.
go ahead. Now I'll try to catch what's on this side. Where's grab some of them pig mats.
Yeah.
We've got some there that are getting kind of dirty. It's time to use them on something and then throw them away.
We're really stingy with these.
Hey, those are so neat.
We got a broken skirt here.
Oh, we sure do. Man, the whole thing is gone. Well, again, that's on one of those cylinders that looked like it was using some oil, so I guess it has a good excuse. From your sister, lunch is ready. And I don't know about you, but I'm not going to pass up lunch. We're back from lunch now. Before lunch there, as we was kind of tearing this down and you pulled the timing set off, you pulled this gear part way out, or bottom sprocket part way out. And I knew that was not good because those were supposed to be pressed on. But what I did not realize that this was one of the very first variable camshaft timing engines that Chevrolet designed clear back in the 60s. And you folks all thought that was new. But this one, this is not good. And as we pull it back here, get it just right, it'll come back. I don't know if you can show that right now, but the key slot in the sprocket and the key is just about completely worn off. It's a wonder he had not lost.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
pull it back out real quick.
Yeah.
There's like barely any key left there.
See, this is a early engine. If you look here, there's no bolt in the front of the crank here to hold the harmonic balancer on. You just press it on tight. But with that being said, there's also nothing to hold that sprocket up tight, so it has to totally depend on the press fit. And for whatever reason, this has lost the press fit and has been working on there. So most likely, the crankshaft will not be any good without a whole bunch of work here, welding the snout up and turning that back down, and it's probably just not cost effective to do that. Look at this key. See
What
if you
key?
Can, yeah, see if you can get a close up of what's left of that key.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about that. The key for the balancer is almost gone. And then the little half moon key here and this area back here where the sprocket goes on has just about completely worn that off. And again, it's not only just the key, but you can feel a pretty good lip here on the side where it's worn into the crankshaft, so there's no more press fit.
Yeah.
So that crankshaft's seen better days. I mean, we could fix that if we had to, but those cranks are not that hard to come by yet, but what we can replace that one. It looks like it's pretty much just a bone stock 327 with a cam. Bearings are looking pretty rough. 10 under, so it hasn't been ground down all that far. Doesn't look like the rods were ever reconditioned. They still look original. Got it?
Yep.
What does it look like?
Stock cast piston. Something 10 AP 310. Would that be a Federal Mogul
That's
number?
a Federal Mogul piston number.
Does not look.
Yeah, I don't think it has much runtime on it. Yeah, these cast replacement pistons for 327, I guess they're okay for a bone stock motor, but they don't seem like they're actually that good of a piston.
Not for burnout
Not for
competition.
burnout competition.
Kind of same.
Ready?
Yep. You suppose that piece just fell right clean through and right to the pan?
It appears so. I don't see anything else in here. There's no no damage, nothing beat up anywhere. I'm guessing that just came off and went straight to the pan, and probably kind of waste of time putting the bolt boots on there when we don't think we're going to be using that crank, and it certainly needs ground anyway. But if we don't put those on, there'll be somebody telling us we should have. So yeah, there's nothing. You know, there's some scratches on the skirts there, but nothing of interest.
Can you see this?
Oh, so we got some four-corner scuffing going on. Is that the broken one?
Yeah, it's the broken one.
I wonder if that one got hot and actually tried to tie up a little bit in the cylinder before it let go. Okay, now this is that cylinder that looked a little bit funny on the cylinder wall, and the crosshatch or rough hone job looked like it was using some oil. Yeah, show the carbon on top of that one, or lack of carbon. How's the oil ring look? Is nothing wrong with the way the ring is on there, is there?
No. Just the two scrapers are lined.
Yeah, but that's not good, but that's not what's causing that problem. I know, did they have them lined up on all the pistons? Yeah. Whoever put this together lined up the gap in all the scrapers. Yeah, every one of them.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't believe anybody would actually do that.
Did they just not have near enough?
Oh, wow. That's from some, well, look at the cylinder next to it.
Yeah.
When they bored that block, they bored it way too close.
Yeah.
They didn't leave enough material in there to even hone out. And when you see that at the bottom like that, I can see it on these cylinders too. They probably had a pretty worn out old boring bar that is the...
as it got further out.
Yeah, as it got farther out, it started having more and more wobble to it, yeah. And wobbled out the bottom of the cylinders there, and then they had nothing left to hone out of it.
You can see on every... Oh, we didn't. I thought we were done with pistons.
No, we got two more to go here yet.
I can see all the comments about how pathetic it is that it takes two people to tear down an engine.
Well, you know, when you get to be my age, why? Need all the help you can get.
Especially when you've only had 40 years of training.
That's right. Potential spam. Do you know anybody by that name?
No.
I'm going to pass on that call.
Fingers out. Ow! Dick.
Yeah, again, in gaps all but lined up. A little bit of scuffing on that. Very much budget build, other than at some point in time the crankshaft had been ground 10 under on the rods there anyway. We'll have to see what the mains are. Block's 60 over, so it's about to the max there. I was watching somebody else's teardown video over the weekend, and I don't know what kind of impact they had, or if it was just the way they was speeding up the sound on it, but it sounded like some kind of Star Wars gun, just pew, pew, pew. So this thing has an adapter on here to change it from the canister filter back to a spin-on filter. I have never seen one that style. Does that have a brand on it?
It says made in USA PC.
Normally I don't like those things because I've had too many of them that seem like they always leak, and I felt like they probably bypassed more of the oil than they actually filtered. But that one in there actually has a gasket down here in the bottom, and the gasket around the top here looks like a pretty good setup. So the crankshaft is 1000 and on mains also. Date on the bearing is the first month of 19. So this it hasn't been that long since this engine was done. Yeah, same way on the rod bearing. It's dated third month of 19. So yeah, this has not been together that long. Mains look better than the rods do. If I cheat and take it over to the side, I can.
That's what we were talking about. You can see the spiral from when it was bored that left. I mean, you can feel that with your fingernail.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
There are no hone marks there. And it's like that on, I think, every cylinder.
Yeah, it is on this side. So normally at this point we'd go ahead and get the freeze plugs and cam bearings out, take all the galley plugs out. But considering this block's already 60 over, it has an issue with that galley plug on the back where it's been brazed up again. I'm not sure anybody's ever going to do anything with this block, but you know what we ought to do? Let's run gauge through it and see just what the bore does look like. Okay, I set up this gauge for 60 thousandths oversize. Wow. Down there in the bottom, we're 2 thousandths tight. Wow. There is 10 thousandths different. I'm going to go check my gauge again. I can't believe it's that far off. I go to the bottom of the cylinder and measure. We are actually more than 2 thousandths of an inch too tight. And as I come up, it's like a big funnel, just tapered. Yeah, when I get to the top here, I'm 66 thousandths, 4.066, should be 4.060. Now 1.5 tight. By the time I get to the top, I'm more than 10.
Wow. And now
Too
you're on
tight.
the cylinder that was broke?
Yeah, this is the one that was broken. So 2 thousandths tight in the bottom. Get up here at the top, I'm 6 thousandths big. Again, about 1 tight in the bottom.
Holy crap.
More than 10 big at the top. Thousandths tight. 5 big. About 1 tight. 5 big. Two thousandths tight. 5 big. 2 thousandths tight. 4 big. I'm not sure what went on with this block.
Well, it's not worn 10 thousandths.
Well, not at this point, unless it was worn 10 thousandths at some point in time, and then somebody cut the ridge out of it, and then honed it to the point where you can't feel the ridge in it any longer. It's almost like somebody honed it that way. It's hard for me to fathom how they could even hone it and make it come out that way. Whatever they did is so coarse here at the top, you can actually catch, even with the glove on here, as I run my fingernail up and down that, I can catch my fingernail with the glove on in the little grooves from the hone job. Let's quit on this part of it for right now. I don't want to waste any more time on this because
Placed yesterday. Should arrive today. Between 2
Alexa, off.
I don't want to waste any more time on this block because I don't think we're going to be doing anything with it. But let's go ahead and go over there and tear the heads down and see what we've got to work with there. Okay. Before we put the valves out here, or take the valves out, I wanted to look at it here. Looks like they sit up okay. The exhausts seem to be sitting up real nice. The intakes are above flush anyway. Not terrible bad on that head. This one here, as we go through, kind of looking at the same thing, we get down here to this end, that valve's sitting flush. They're probably to the point when we do them again, they're going to need intake valve seats in, and they should have exhaust seats in, set them up for unleaded if they are not already that way. But I suspect they probably have hard seats already put in on the exhaust side. Oh, we got a broken damper on one of the springs, a couple of the springs. We'll have to look, see what that cam is. It may be bigger than we think. And I don't know if those springs are anything special at all. They have had new guides put in. Somebody spent a bunch of money on that. But they didn't last. Now, one thing that we have been doing on heads like this, originally all this has for valve stem seals is this little O-ring that goes in this second groove on the valve stem, and it seals the retainer, so it has to shed the oil off the sides, and then all the valve gets is just a little bit of splash now and then. We have found that we have better luck with guides when we put in positive seals. Mm-hmm. So if we end up doing these heads, we will go back with positive seals. You can see the wear here from those dampers on the springs that were broken. That's probably where that metal came from that I saw in the corners of the head. I think we probably have a good pair of castings there to work with. Somebody has put exhaust seats in it, updated them for unleaded gas, but at this point they're going to probably need the intake seats put in also. We'll go ahead and replace the exhausts if we do them, and then put on positive valve stem seals. I think it'd probably make a pretty decent set of heads out of those again. So anyway, with what we found here, I think I'm going to work up an estimate for the customer. Unless he has another 327 to start with, personally I would probably build a 350 for him, because he's going to have a block and crank. And then if he wants to put a little hotter cam in it and his manifold and stuff on there, I think it'd make a pretty sweet running engine. So I'll go give him a call now and see if we can find out a little more of the story and go from there.